Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Cramer. Our guest today is Adrienne Rivera, and we're going to talk about some energetic stuff. It's going to be a great episode. Welcome to the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
So now I really put it out there in sort of like this, energetic stuff. What is this episode going to be about? Let's talk about the practical, pragmatic way that you bring this energetic stuff into business. So let's start by talking a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I'm Adrienne Rivera, like you just said, and I am a spiritual business coach, and I'm also the founder of Breath of Gold. And in that business, I am a breathwork trainer. So I certify people to become breathwork facilitators. And then we have a breathwork membership and lots of fun things. And really what I've found over my years of entrepreneurship is that breathwork has been the edge. When I first started out my business, I started out as a fitness coach online. And when my clients would hit roadblocks and not be able to lose the last 10 pounds, it was breathwork that would be the edge to allow them to release whatever emotional weight they were still carrying in their physical bodies. And so then when I transitioned into business coaching, that was such a natural thing to add as well, because it really is, I believe, the edge for success. It's really the thing. It's different than mindset in that it's embodiment.
Let's talk a little bit more about this, because there could be some people listening who may have never even heard the term breath work. So can you share a little bit more about what it actually is?
Yeah, great question. So there is a lot of different types of breath work out there, but when I talk about breath work, I'm talking about the activating, upregulating breath work known as circular connected breath work. People here listening may have heard of holotropic breath work, very similar. It's an hour of breathing in through your mouth, out through your mouth in a circular connected way. No pause at the top, no pause at the bottom. And that style of breathing activates our sympathetic nervous system and allows us to heal trauma and to see things from a greater lens. So I often like to say it's like, with all the different breathing and meditation, this is like the sprinting of running. Mm-hmm. If I were a running coach, I would say like sprints make such a good difference. And I do run. So sprints are hard and challenging, but they really are the edge to gaining speed. And so this type of breath work is upregulating, it is activating, it allows us to have visions and clarity and receive the business downloads. And what's fascinating about it is that you don't necessarily need to know what you need a breakthrough. You don't necessarily need to know what you want to gain from it. You can simply just show up and see what is ready for you, what God wants to show you in that session. And so it's really beautiful. And I believe that whatever you're ready for is exactly what you'll get. So sometimes it's a lot of releasing. There might be ugly crying. Often there is, especially the first 10 sessions, because often there's a lot of things that are stored in the body that, it's like a big purge when you first start a breathwork journey. And then after that, it may happen where it's the big ugly cry every now and then, but you may not have as much to release, and it might be more clarity, euphoria, pleasure in the body. And that's really beautiful too.
I love that. So we've talked a lot in other episodes about the importance of releasing that stuff, all of that old repressed stuff. A lot of us are carrying a lot of pain from early on in life. When we're talking about the business journey, it's not an easy path. Most people are encountering a lot of internal resistance along the way because their conditioning didn't set them up for the business journey. And being a business owner is a lot different than having a job. Now, life in and of itself can be challenging, for sure. So then you add to that the element of risk and, having to work through the different stuff that's coming up for you. So when a client is using breath work to sort of purge and clear and release, and maybe even you could say hit the reset button, energetically and emotionally. What are some of the things that typically are experienced as a result of that? So besides just the like emotional stuff that they're purging, what type of transformational experience is common when people embark on this journey?
That's a great question. And speaking to entrepreneurs in particular, we all have to show up on social media, right? Like that's a huge thing. And what I found is that a lot of clients that have come to me, and this was even me in the past, they were afraid of showing up because, oh, what are my family? Like, what are they going to think? My parents are following me. What are they going to say about me having a business? And what's interesting is that we often have this tendency to think that the people that love us most are going to judge us the most. So it's like our inner critic, we project it onto them, and, oh, they're going to think I'm not good enough. They're going to think I'm an imposter. And to some respect, we believe that about ourselves and we're projecting it onto them. And so some of the results from breathwork is, let's say that a client does a breathwork session and they have a huge realization around how they have a lack of intimacy with their family. And that is, also showing up in their clients. They're, not letting anyone fully see them and creating a real intimate connection on an emotional level. If that's the case, then they may have a lot of visions around that. They may cry a lot about that. They may feel a shift in perspective of, oh my goodness, I didn't even give my family a chance. Like I created all these stories about them without even giving them a chance. And so then I always tell my clients, like, integration is so key to have like the next tangible action step from that. So maybe in this example, the next action step is calling your parents or, going on a trip with your family, like deepening the intimacy, clearing the judgments that you've placed on them, explaining to them why you haven't been as present as maybe you were in the past. And with that, there's like no fears. It's crazy. It's like, if that is your biggest fear and you can resolve that, then the result is you show up fully. You don't care what people think. The people that you're most afraid of judging you, that no longer exists. You've got them on board. And so communication can really be key. And it's a really important part of the integration process. And so another example, breathwork is just as much for releasing as it is for gaining. So I do a lot of breathwork myself, and so do my clients, to receive the clarity on who it is that we get to support in our business. And so back in March, I did a retreat and I invited everyone. So I thought everyone that I thought I wanted to be there, and I thought it would be full, and it wasn't. And so I'm like, okay, well, I obviously am forgetting people. So I went into a breathwork journey, and the intention was to have God show me who I'm forgetting that gets to be at this retreat. And 30 names came through. And with that, 2 of those people ended up coming. So the intuitive action step was to reach out to all of them, be super authentic. Like, everyone knows I live and breathe and preach breathwork. So I just said, hey, I just did a breathwork session. I saw you at this retreat. Let me know if this speaks to you. If this is exciting to you, I'll share the details. And 2 people came. And that was so simple and so easy. So sometimes it can be something that we're gaining. Sometimes it's something that we're releasing to then gain in another aspect. It's all connected.
Beautiful. Now, I think we've done a pretty good job of at least covering like the high level overview of breath work. And I want to shift gears just a little bit, because I know that you also work with clients to help them to have these more energetically aligned enrollment calls. So we're talking about sales here now. And I think that this is a great topic, and this is one that I wanted to dig into a little bit deeper with you. From my experience, a lot of people have some hangups around sales, like deep rooted conditioning that sales is sleazy, it's self-serving, you're doing something to someone and they're resisting it. And although a lot of very heart-centered entrepreneurs really genuinely do want to serve, they're coming from their heart, they're divinely inspired to do the work that they're doing in the world. But as long as they're holding on to those wacky beliefs, it comes through in their sales conversations. There's an awkwardness. They're overthinking things. What they're emanating that the other person is picking up on vibrationally and subconsciously is not of service to either of them. And it's not an effective strategy. So let's talk from your perspective, helping people with this. What does that process look like when you're working with someone to help them get into that energetic alignment with their client and really be of service and come from that higher vibrational place within themselves?
Yes, I love this so much. So, yes, I have a process called energetic enrollment, and there are 9 different phases that it goes through. And when I have someone that comes to me, I get them to really become comfortable in the framework. And it's kind of like learning how to dance. I love dancing, but I do the dancing where it's like a static dance and you make it up as you go. But I would imagine that if you did waltz, you like learn certain steps. And then once you know the basics, you can kind of play on what you know. So that's the same thing with sales. So the first thing is really get clear on where and why we're doing certain phases. And then it sounds like a conversation. Like each time I have an enrollment call, it's completely different and it's meeting someone where they're at. I did high ticket sales for a multi-million-dollar business coach, and I learned a lot. And I took everything that I knew from breathwork, from energetics, from my own personal experience around what works. And also, I'm really good at seeing what works on me and why. I studied psychology in college. And so I think a lot of people are afraid of selling because they don't like to be sold to. They don't want to feel pressured into making a decision that feels forceful. So one of the things that I do for my clients that are either in my mastermind or that I work with one-on-one is I support them in channeling and creating their enrollment superpower. And this is like the money in the bag, because as soon as they discover what their enrollment superpower is, they no longer fear doing sales because they have gotten permission to just be themselves. So a great example of this, I have a client who is a therapist. She's amazing. And when I channeled her sales superpower, what came through is she is the empath. Like that is her sales superpower. She is so good when it comes to really allowing her clients to feel understood, validated, seen. Of course, as a therapist, like she's so trained in that. And that is an impeccable skill to have in the sales conversation, because when the client feels understood, they have built know, like, and trust. They feel seen in a deeper way. I mean, to have someone who actually listens to all the details and hears you and reflects back to you, and that whole thing creates such a feeling in the body of safety and resonance, and it supports them in getting clarity to know what's the most aligned decision for them. And I got another client, and his sales superpower, his enrollment superpower, is breakthrough. He is so good at calling people out in a loving way, but he is direct. He is a leadership coach. So he is the kind of person that you hire when you want to have, a fire lit under your butt and you want to get going. And he gives a taste of that. So we each have a different personality naturally. Like for me, a lot of my enrollment superpower is the believer. Like I believe in people so much. I get so excited for them because I see where they can go. I'm big vision person. So as soon as I start talking to them and I see their business, instantly I get business ideas. I get so excited about what I see possible for them, and they feel that excitement, and that excitement creates excitement within them. So I think we all have different aspects of many different sales or enrollment superpowers. And when you can really hone in on one, it just feels like you're being you. Yeah, it's really cool. So one of the things that I would say is a really good tangible tip for people that are doing sales calls that really gets to shift is to make the program so exciting and allow the person to feel it in their body. I feel like that's what's missing. I mean, breath work is so much like everything you ever wanted to know. It's like clear yes, no. Like always, it just feels like, wow, like, okay, breathwork gives so much clarity. And so that's why people that do breathwork can move forward in life so fast. And that's the edge. In sales, often a big mistake that I see people make is that they're keeping their client in their head and they're not letting them feel in their body if this is an intuitive, full body yes for them. So I'm big on not pushing people to make a decision, but I'm all about encouraging coaching to support someone in making the most aligned decision. So instead of handling objections, it's more of, okay, this is like the first objection you get is really where the excitement comes, because this is where you get to become inquisitive and support the person in discovering why is their fear coming up. Allow them to feel held in that, like validate that so much. Like it's totally normal that you're experiencing this fear. Yes, I know this is a large investment. And what do you like about the investment? How does it feel for you? And really just asking them questions rather than you need to do this because this, and you're wrong because of this, and you have this horrible problem. And if you don't do my program, like none of that stuff, but really asking even more questions. And so the goal in what most people would call the handling objections phase is really just to get the person clear. And I think a lot of people give up around this phase, or they get a little bit uncomfortable because they're like, oh, I don't want to push someone. Like, I don't know about asking questions. And it's really about your energy of where you're coming from. If you in your business stand by the belief that I want to help people and I want to make a difference in the world, then you get to be unattached from the outcome. If the person's best decision for them that you've helped them get to is that they actually, like if you're a fitness coach, if they actually just need to get a gym membership and try on their own for a little bit rather than hiring you, if that's what they can do, then awesome. Like you've changed their life. They're doing something now that they wouldn't have done otherwise. So we get to take our ego out of the way and just trust that we get to do the right thing, and that'll always come back tenfold. If we can tell that the client isn't really wanting to, or they, we ask our questions and they say, this doesn't really feel like a good fit right now, thank them for their honesty. Share with them a free resource. One of the things that people do that is also kind of a rookie mistake is the first no that they get from a client, they pretty much treat it as a lost sale. I think about my CRM from the sales training days, and it's like, oh, the sale is lost. And the energy when you say lost sale is kind of like, oh, I don't really care about that person. They I already tried as hard as I could, and they said no, so they're never going to buy. And that's not necessarily the case. We get to treat each person like a human, and some people need a lot more nurturing. In sales and marketing, it's often taught that we need at least 7 to 14 touch points before someone says yes. And that's actually where I believe the industry is changing a little bit, and we can start to be a little bit more transparent up front about our prices, even if they are super high ticket, coaching packages, because what will happen in the mindset of a buyer, I know this because I watched myself do it, is I got the email, this person selling her 30K program. And the first thing that comes through at the first time that I saw this email was, I would never pay that. That's ridiculous. I would just go buy all this other stuff for that amount. And then I start to see some other emails, more touch points. I'm getting warmer. And then I think, maybe I would do that one day. And then, eventually I became that type of buyer who saw the value. And in a way, it was actually very helpful. And I think very smart that business coach in particular, and I've seen it more and more, was super transparent about the prices, because it's actually warming up. Each time you see it, you're starting to feel more comfortable with the number. There's not the sticker shock anymore. And you're like, okay, I've sat with this for a few days. I've seen that this is the price for months. I finally feel ready for this, or I've saved for this and I feel secure in this decision. So not needing to rush people. I had an amazing enrollment conversation yesterday, and I'll share a few little tips too that I think will really help people. So the call was a pretty long call. And when she had an objection, the first thing that I did, it was the money objection, of course, which it usually is. When she had the money objection, I listened in my body and I listened to her words of like, does she not want to do this? Because sometimes, and I've even done this in the past, I've said, oh, I don't have the money, but I really just also haven't wanted to do it. And I felt, and I knew also, because she told me throughout the conversation, she really wanted to do this. Like, okay, like I'm willing to sit with her in this. But I also knew that where I was sitting, I do my sales calls on like speakerphone on my phone. And that I think is really great because it allows us to just be present in the moment without getting distracted on video. And I was sitting at my desk right here where I'm sitting now, and I could feel myself almost start to lose the energy and the excitement that I had built. And I said, oh no, like what's coming through right now is I feel like this is going to be a lot of work. This might be 30 more minutes. Is it really worth it? Maybe I should just book a follow-up call. Like, Adrienne, use your intuition in the moment. And so the message was shift your energy. So I actually got up and I went to another desk, went into the kitchen, and I sat there, and I instantly changed the scenery. And that changed my state. So my state went from starting to get a little bit tired to loving compassion and holding her in that space. I'm like, Adrienne, just hold her as if you're holding a client. Hold her as the past version of you that also had fear. Hold her in that space and ask loving questions. And the way, the tonality, the energy was exactly what it needed to be. It was really like the questions were love and curiosity. It wasn't like, you have to do this thing. Like, there was none of that. And I knew she could feel that. And she ended up signing up for the Breathwork certification. So I know that it went well. And yeah, it really was just like her fears were like, ooh, like I want to do this, but like I need a little bit more mindset support before I feel comfortable in making this investment. And so sharing with them and also positioning how this investment is going to completely change their life. I think a lot of people really don't want to spend more money. Like, if you were to ask anyone, do you want to spend more money today? They would say no, like, no, probably already spending too much money. But if you were to create the most amazing solution to whatever it is that they want support with and present it to them, they would be like, wow, I want this. Like, they wouldn't even think about the price. Some things are really high ticket and we don't even think about the price because there's so much value and it's a no-brainer. So that's part of the sales, is having a no-brainer offer and knowing your client really well and positioning that and positioning the value around how this literally doesn't compare to anything else. It should have your uniqueness in it. It should have something where it really stands out in the market. And you should also feel really excited about it. If you're not excited about what you're selling, I really don't think you're going to close any sales. So you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that the offer is the best offer ever. And if it's not the best offer ever, like, tweak it. You have your whole life to get better and better and better. And everything is feedback. So every enrollment call that you do, every offer that you make, every launch that you do, everything is learning, everything is feedback. And take it as if you're an athlete, like you're just a player on the field and you get better each time and you have fun with it. If you forget to have fun, then you've forgotten why you're here in the first place. And so often changing the word sales to enrollment helps a lot. My clients really like that word a lot better than sales, because sales, we have this negative association with the word, and enrollment is simply enrolling someone into their vision so that they take committed action, whether that's in you or someone else. really doesn't matter. We get to be unattached and know and trust that the more good decisions we can make for humanity as a whole, it'll come back to us tenfold.
Love it. So much gold there. This might be one of those episodes that people are going to have to re-listen to, because there were a lot of incredibly valuable points that you made. And these are things that they're subtle shifts that make such a huge difference. Now, we talked about breath work. We've talked about your energetic enrollment process. Right now, I'm sure there are people who really, really resonate with one or both of these ways that you can support them. So how can our listeners connect with you?
Yes. So I would love to invite anyone listening that wants to connect to message me on Instagram at Adrienne Rivera Coaching. I have a mastermind, which includes breathwork for you, breathwork certification, business coaching, and a trip to Peru. So that's like my favorite offer that I have. It's like everything. It's amazing. And I have a lot of other ways that I can support you as well. And on Instagram, you'll be able to see a few different free resources as well. You can also check out breathofgold.com/Sunday-breathwork. And you can come to one of our Sunday breathwork classes for free and feel your next edge in business come to life.
Excellent. I have loved this conversation. So many valuable takeaways and really incredible resources and support that you're offering. So I want to thank you so much for being with us and sharing your energy, which is so good.
Thank you.
And of course, I've got to thank all of our listeners. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode.